Begin, Amanji.
Yeah, you can start. I've just texted Suhit. He can join us. We go. That's fine.
बढ़िया.
Yeah.
Again, namaskar, adab, sat sri akal, vanakkam, kem cho, everybody. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday nice cool morning. यहाँ पे थोड़ी रिमझिम बारिश हो रही है. I hope the weather at your end also would be cool. To start with, I thought let me introduce sort of the background for those people who are not aware of National HRD Network. छोटा सा brief है. Okay. We are a national body started off more than 35 years ago by Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Uday Parikh, and the others. So very, very strong organization working for the development of the community, HR community. ये छोटा सा brief है, you can read. By now, we are 35 chapters across India as well as Dubai and Singapore, and more are being developed. So organization is developing very, very fast. Okay. The Pune chapter, I represent the Pune chapter. Along with me, I have the other colleagues. Dipen Sharma will not be able to join us today. He is currently, right now, he is speaking with the very high level government officials. So, wo sab ho raha hai, he, Anand, Rajesh. So, it was started off in 1989. Yashwant Mudliar, he is no longer with us. Arun Waklu ji हैं, काफी लोगों का नाम आप जानते होंगे. So this is what our background is. Currently, we got about 2,500 members, which include high-level professionals, CXOs, academicians, students, professionals, the works. Okay. We've had the opportunity and the privilege to be conferred the best chapter awards, 94, 2018, 21, 22, ऐसा है, and emerging chapter also. So thank you so much everybody. सभी का साथ है, सभी का support है. We have Dipen Sharma, who's our treasurer officially. Otherwise, he does a lot of activities. We have Arundhati, who's the chapter manager. You might be knowing. Shamani को भी आप जानते होंगे. We have a new joinee, Prachi. Prachi takes care of our DEI outreach initiative. उसके अंदर हम बहुत कुछ कर रहे हैं. I will share in brief later on as we progress on the slide. PWD job drive भी आप काफी लोग जानते होंगे. That is being led by Pratibha. And then, of course, we have Anand Khot. Anand was the immediate past president before me. And we have Neeraj Mankar, who was the earlier treasurer and now our advisor. Anand ke baare mein, if you may not be aware, he has now taken on the role of the national secretary at the national level. So this is the first time in Pune, and we have a representative from Pune to be at such a high level position. So kudos to him and the work that he's done. ये सब चीजें हम करते हैं. You guys can read. I won't repeat. So this is what we are, and there are a lot of other initiatives that we are taking. Okay. बोलने के तो बहुत कुछ है, मगर Ajay and Suhit will then issue a supari name, my name किया, बहुत टाइम ले लिया हमारा. But this is what we do. ये मोटा मोटी हमारा एक्टिविटी का रहा है. 80+ activities that we've had, events. We've impacted or included 1,34,000 people. ये जब फिगर मैंने देखा तो मैंने पूछा श्रावणी से, यार इतना कैसे हो सकता है 1,34,000. तो immediately she came up with a master list and showed me proof कि ऐसा ऐसा है. तो which is true. We were very happy that we are able to reach so many people. Okay. ये है, और भी कुछ हम बहुत कर रहे हैं. These are some of the events which I thought I will share with you. PWD Job Drive is an ongoing thing. It's a virtual thing. If any of your organizations requires this, please get in touch with us. Sensitization workshops bhi hum kar rahe hain for diversity. In fact, diversity is one of our major activities that we are doing, and I'm happy to share that we have with us the national lead, Tanuja, who's based in Hyderabad. She is also guiding us, helping us, mentoring us for our Samaveshan जो 7th of October को हो रहा है. You people are most welcome to join in. You may have received the nomination forms as well as the brochures. नहीं मिला है तो आप बताइए, हम शेयर करेंगे आपसे. We have an ongoing session on comprehensive certificate in leadership and development, वो हो रहा है. We are also planning an ODCM. This will be the second season. Design thinking तो of course है ही है. अजय के तहत में हम बहुत कुछ कर रहे हैं इसके में, and then one of the things that we are doing is the members night. So ladies and gentlemen, please mark this date, 14th of October in Pune. We will share the details with you. This is to celebrate you, all our members and all our fraternity members. This is an invitation only event, but all our members are welcome. And also to celebrate the awards that we've got. तो थोड़ा सा हाई एंड डिस्कशंस तो होते ही हैं, इंटेलेक्चुअल बातें तो होती ही है, थोड़ा मजा भी किया जाए, सो ये सब चीजें हैं. क्विज, वी आर कमिंग अप विद अ वेरी यूनिक क्विज. दिस विल अगेन बी अ सेकंड सेशन. तो ये सब चीजें हम कर रहे हैं. इसके अलावा भी और भी बहुत कुछ चीजें हैं. These are the various initiatives that we are undertaking. Okay, so as I mentioned to you, DEIB, डाइवर्सिटी रिलेटेड इनिशिएटिव्स हमारा मेन है. समावेशन जो है एक्टिविटी वो हो रहा है. PWD है, उसमें हमारे दूसरे लीड हैं राजेश मेहता. इनफैक्ट समावेशन में वी आल्सो हैव आवर को चेयरपर्सन स्वाति रस्तोगी. शी इज आवर अगेन मेंटर. चेयरपर्सन है. DI सेंसिटाइजेशन हैकाथॉन is one thing which is a new concept, a new one which we are coming up with in association with IMDR. This is going to happen on the 5th of October. If your organization has a problem statement, a live problem statement with in the diversity space, you are most welcome to join us. This is absolutely pro bono. Okay, so if you are interested, we will share the details. फ्री मार्केट भी हो रहा है. 1MWLC is 1 million women leaders club community that we have. This is in association with a startup. उसके अंदर our intention is to create 1 million women leaders. Okay, ये बहुत बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है. उसके ऊपर बहुत तगड़ा काम हो रहा है. Okay, then the others you can see People Point series, which is an ongoing thing. Corporate Katta is one thing which we are coming up with. The radio channel called Big FM. Okay, so ये है CHRO है. Between the lines, of course, है in association with Upohan. Okay, and various other initiatives. On we are also work very closely with the social causes. तो organ donation के ऊपर हम programs करते हैं. Awareness. Okay, we recently did one last week. Alcoholic Anonymous के ऊपर we are doing. Vridha Mitra is focusing on the elderly. तो ये भी है. Rescue Trust is focusing on animals. We'll come up with a series of programs. In that we are also working very closely with the government. As I mentioned to you कि दीपेन और आनंद वहां पे है. ये हम पुणे म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन के साथ भी कर रहे हैं. Kaleidoscope is our annual event which we do with Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, SIMS जो कहते हैं. तो वो है. That's a national level activity that we are doing. बाकी आप लोग पढ़ सकते हैं, बहुत सारा है. Okay, these are the some snippets of various programs that we've done. Ferguson College के साथ किया, Symbiosis है, बालाजी है, various other programs that we are doing. Okay, now coming to our main event today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a second session that we are doing, and the first one which we did was such a hit that we got responses कि यार हमने either we want a second round or people who missed out कि for some reason we couldn't attend. आप जरा please दोबारा से कर सकते हैं. We requested Ajay and his team and they graciously agreed. So ये हम दूसरा कर रहे हैं. Ajay Agarwal is an expert in his craft, well known in this industry as far as the design thinking goes and other activities. He was part of the KPMG organization earlier. His professional career spans across various roles in advisory, product and service, process automation, sales and business development, training, etc. Over 18 years of experience in the industry in BFSI, manufacturing, FMCG, etc. He has been passionately advocating creation of design driven culture in organizations, across India and internationally, helping them to redesign their customer experience, uh, having coached over more than 4,000 design thinking professionals and 100 plus innovation projects. He also mentors startups as ways to encourage and support innovation in the industry. इसके अलावा मैं एक और बात उनके बारे में कहूंगा with the feedback I have received, and मुझे बोला गया है people who have attended his programs never go off video, or if they are in person, they never go out. Okay, that is the amount of grip he has over the topic, and he makes it so interesting. और ये आप खुद महसूस करोगे आज अभी ये 1.5 घंटे में, and tell me if I'm wrong. Okay, ये, ladies and gentlemen, is Ajay Agarwal for you. Thank you so much, Ajay, for being part of our organization and helping us take on the design thinking mission forward. Shukriya ji.
It's my honor.
Now we have a very interesting personality here, all the way from Australia. Suhit ji jo hai, he is based in Australia. He's an award-winning global strategy and design leader with over 20 plus years of strategy, innovation, and design, supporting large multinational companies, federal and state governments, and etc. तो हमारा इरादा मकसद ये था, the last time we had Unmesh Pawar, who was our guest speaker. He was the HR professional. He is a CHRO. इस बार हमने सोचा कि कुछ अलग किया जाए, और thanks to Ajay and his think tank, कि we would want somebody who's a non-HR person who can share, who's worked in the design thinking space, and who will be able to share his experiences and the benefit that his organization has got. Hence, thanks to Tanuja for suggesting and connecting us with Suhit. So हमने बात की, and he very enthusiastically he agreed. 2 दिन में सब कुछ fix हो गया, and he was on board. And ladies and gentlemen, here he is. तो ये उनका जो आज आप अनुभव सुनोगे ना, that will help you a lot to look at design thinking from a different perspective. He brings on global experience to the challenges of complex strategy, challenges that are wicked, multi-stakeholders, and have long-term implications. Currently, as the Director of Policy and System Reform at the Department of Premier and Cabinet, he is focusing on wicked policy challenges and implementing missions for the state. तो ये एक छोटा सा ब्रीफ है उनके बारे में. इफ यू वांट मोर डिटेल्स, ऑब्वियसली उनका लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल हमने शेयर किया है दोनों के बारे में. आप बकायदा वो पढ़िए. यू विल गेट अ बेटर आइडिया एज टू such strong professionals we have who are going to share their knowledge with us. Okay, ये इतने सारे thank you है मेरी तरफ से भी. thank you, and over to you, Ajay and Suhit. Suhit, welcome. I hope that you join. I'm unable to see the screen, मगर शुक्रिया. Thank you.
Thanks, Aman. Very nice to be part of this and appreciate the introduction.
Thank you so much, ji. I will stop now my screen as well as I will seal my mouth. आप लोग please. Thank you so much, ji. Ajay, all yours.
Thank you so much, Amanji, for the introduction and for once again making us aware of the various things that NHRD is doing for the fraternity. Just sharing my screen. Just tell me if you can see. Just hold on. Well, if you can see my screen, give me a yes if you can see my screen on the chat.
Yes, ji.
So let's see. Soham is the only person woken up right now. Gaurav, Salil is saying yes. Bhaskar is saying yes. What about others sleeping? Aman, okay, Aman, आप भी हाँ yes बोल रहे हो. Yes, Dipin is saying yes. Ashu is saying yes. Meenakshi is saying yes. Good. So I think I have some woken up people in the morning Saturday. Yes, I know that you guys we have called you on a Saturday, which might traditionally have your resting day. But thank you for making to this session. Before we begin, let's just figure out the mood that you are in right now. Okay, so on the chat, using an emoji, you just represent what mood you are in right now. So what mood am I in? Let me just share that. I am in this mood right now. I am in this mood. Let's see what mood are you in? So, okay, Mekhal is okay. So is there someone having a star? Angel, happy. Gaurav is really happy. What about others? 4 people, 5 people only. Yes, Amanji is also very happy. Asif is happy. Yes, Monica is super excited. Tanmay is both less happy and laughing as well. Nitin is moodless right now. No worries. By the end of it, you will have a good mood. Yes, Vivek is happy. Meenakshi is celebrating. Good one, guys. So super excited to see the emotions that you are representing right now. Let's begin our session. So for people, as Amanji said, that this is the second session. But we made it a point before we started. When I was designing this session, Amanji and Dipin had told me very, very clearly that Ajay, we might have some new people and we might have some people who had joined in from before as well. So one thing that I made sure, everyone has something to take back. So new people, definitely you will have everything to take back. And people who have already attended, yes, there are some new stories, there are some new tools that we will be introducing you to. And be excited to solve a real problem today. And this is a different one that we picked today. I am also attempting it for the first time, so I don't know how will it go, but yes, along with you, I'm sure we're going to make wonders out of it. So 3 agenda points for the session: understand design thinking for HR. And as I said, and Amanji also introduced, we have Suhit also, who will share a different perspective around it, which is a more business perspective around design and his experiences. And also, we're going to experience design thinking live in action. So you're all going to work along with me to work on a design, and we're going to design something by the end of the session, and you're all going to be proud designers as we're going to leave you with. Session is fast-paced by design, so we will have approximately 45 minutes that we're going to work along around this in the session before Suhit takes over and shares his experiences. So tag along with me, just tighten your seatbelts and just experience the flight takeoff and the landing that we do as soon as we are up and running. Superb. So my first question to you, as I said, all the session is completely interactive. So I will need all of you to kind of just quickly keep responding to the questions that I ask you and responding to the activities that we do. So what according to your design? Let me ask this question. On the chat, what according to you is design? Idea, Bhaskar says good idea. Ganita says thinking differently. And I'm talking about design right now, guys, not design thinking. So think about it. How to build something, new creation. That's what Ramakrishna says. What about others? Step-by-step action plan. That's what Devinder says. Pooja says a plan. Okay, done. Idea converted into a structure. Pictorial representation of your idea. Read this somewhere. Design is where art and logic shakes hands and decides not to argue for once. Okay, that's great. Good one, Sai. Purposeful thing. Asif, blueprint. New creation, making something new in a structured form. That's what Manoj says. Meenakshi says creativity. Pooja says high-level understanding and detail to actionable thinking. Good one, guys. Amazing to kind of understand the diversity of thought that all of you bring in. Traditionally, a lot of us associate designs to visuals, to something, how something looks and feels. And traditionally, a lot of us also associate designs to products, right? But a question to all of you, before I tell you what is going to be designed for you, and we pick up an example as well. And this time I've taken up a challenging example because I'm going to get some live feedback from you guys. But traditionally, products and visuals. But let me ask you a question. Is this session that we are running right now, is this designed? Give me a yes or no on the chat. Yes. Is this mobile phone designed? Yes. Is our life designed? Yes. No. Someone says no. Nitin says life is not designed. No worries, Nitin. You are the designer of your own life. Yes, I'm sure. Great. Good. So traditionally we think about like products, but products, services, processes, I mean, life in itself, everything is designed, right? So design no more is about products. It's expanded its application into multiple spaces. In HR itself, we worked on multiple projects, right? From we have designed the entire employee experience, employee journey, and all of that. Now, the second thing, a lot of us associate designs to products. Let's see how. I'll just give you an example. So Prachi and Aditya, you both are friends, and you're just walking on the street. And Prachi, you see a great skirt which is hung on the wall of a shop there, and you tell Aditya, "Hey, that's a great design." That's because traditionally we perceive them as how something looks and feels. However, you go to the shop and you take that skirt, but when you try it out, it does not fitting properly. The material is not good, and then you say, no, this is not great. That's because intuitively you don't think of designs as only look and feel, but you perceive it as that. But when you actually buy it or when you actually use it, it's a culmination of four things. And that's what for you guys design would be from today. And I call it as the face of design. Okay. I call it that every design has a face. And if you want to remember it, the best way to remember it is her design ka ek chehra hota hai. Every design has a face. And face stands for functional, aesthetic. And we'll take an example also to understand, but first understand what does design mean. So when a designer is designing it, what do they think about? Functional, aesthetic, commercial, emotional. That means your design needs to help the user ease out some of their functional tasks that they want to perform. Aesthetics, definitely look and feel of the overall design that you're creating, be it product, process, service, anything that you're talking about, applications, anything. Commercial is about how is your design fitting into the user's pocket? That means whatever you're designing from a commercial value standpoint, is it delivering enough value to the user that they will buy it and use it? So it's about the overall commercial value proposition. And the fourth point is emotional. That means what kind of emotions your user is going to experience from your design that they are using or when they use your designs. Now, as I said, we're going to take an example for each one of each of the tools or each of the things that we talk about today. So I'm taking the example of this, and a lot of you will be happy or sad seeing this, but yes, this is the example that we are taking. This is the communication that we sent you for this session itself. Okay. Now let's try, because when we were thinking about it, we thought about the face, and there were certain elements that we had thought about when we were designing this. So let's try and see from a face standpoint, how do you look at this design? So my question is, all of you can see the design on the right hand side, right? The poster that we had for this one, for this session. Good. So now let's see from a functional standpoint, what is the functionality of this design? So when we were thinking about the functionality, what is the functional element that we put into this design? Think about it and tell me. Functional. Think about it. QR code, good one, Shaheen. So we have made the registration process easier. That was one part of it. Yes. Ease of registration and information, learning, yes. Crisp to fit in one page. So all the information is in one page, so a person can kind of get everything together. Good. So I've just tried to put information at a glance, easy registration, shareable digitally. So these were some elements, and there were more, but broadly, yes, you have also covered these three, that information, all the information at one glance, registration made easy, and shareable digitally. These were certain elements that we wanted to take care of, and we were looking at functionality. Now let's look at the aesthetics. What are the aesthetic elements that we have put in? Think about it and tell me. Aesthetic elements. Pictures, crisp, photos, colors, superb, good. So there are certain aesthetic elements, icons, and all these things, just to make it more visually the way we wanted our users to perceive it, just to make it visually more appealing to the eyes of our user. Okay, good. Now let's go to the next part of it. Commercial. Yes, think about it. Another element in aesthetics was the placement of critical information. So where do you place the critical information in the whole design so that it kind of looks at? Yes, commercial flow chart. That was aesthetics. Free, good ones. Yeah. So it's free, amazing. So that's been put here clearly that it's free. Yes. So free for the user. So commercial elements. Yes, absolutely. It was free and Zoom webinar. Good. Now let's go to the last part of it, emotional. So when we were designing this, so what's the emotional element in this? Or what is the emotional, what emotions is it driving? So when you experienced this, when you looked at this, what emotions did it drive in you? Let's think of it, whether it aligns to what we were thinking. Photo, so that was one. So it was more human to kind of, you could align to some humans there. Okay, done, good. What about what else? Emotions of learning and gaining, curiosity, modern HR leaders, need of HR, learn new aspects of DT, concerns to solutions. Yes. So when we were designing it, good. So we wanted to kind of drive two emotions broadly: thought-provoking and professional. These were the two emotions that we wanted people to experience when we were kind of designing this entire communication, or this entire one. Yes, LinkedIn links, good. So personal connect, amazing, guys. So remember, as I said, design for us from now onwards is not only about how it looks and feels, but in this simple communication, just take it as a learning poster that you've kind of issued to your organization. In this simple one-page poster also, you can look at face. You can see how functional, aesthetic, commercial, emotional. If these four types of human needs is what we take care of, our designs can be much better than what we generally would just put across and go through. So remember, from now onwards, when you are designing something and when you are kind of putting your brains to design anything, look at the face rather than looking at only aesthetics that you would look into your design. Good. Now, if this is what design is, what is design thinking? Now, let me just ask you this. I just repeat what I said last time as well, that हमको जो भी पता था हमने already बोल दिया है, अब इसके अलावा हमें नहीं पता, right? But let's see what, I'm just picking your brain. What is design thinking?
It is putting up our ideas in the most useful way, most
Ideas in
practical
the most
way.
useful way. Okay. Yes, on the chat,
Identifying
because I
different,
think it'll be easier on the chat if you can just put it there. Structured way. Ramakrishna says innovation. Yes, any other thoughts? Let's see more. Designing a product, keeping the four aspects in mind. Live application of face puja, good one. Yes, designing our thoughts, putting ideas together so that conveys a message. Face with empathy. Surya says that. Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, by the time you guys think and come out with more such thought-provoking answers that you've been giving me, process to conceptualize design, easy to understand concepts, easy, good one. So design for me, again, this is something that I have been living, and this is the way I have been living design. Design for me is three things. It's a human-centered approach to finding problems and solving them with continuous experimentation. Now, this is what design for me is, which means there are three keywords here. First, it is human-centered. So there are many ways to look at opportunities and many ways to find problems and things. Yes, there is data center, there is process center, there might be multiple ways. Design primarily, yes, you use data and you can use multiple other ways to kind of make your designs better. But primarily, one of the important elements that we focus on is human-centered, which means that before you put your pen to paper and try to design anything, you first look at the human who is going to use it. The second keyword is problem finding. So designers for me are problem finders and not problem solvers, which means simply saying that, Prachi, if you are a design thinker, you would not wait for people to come and tell you that this is the problem, Prachi, can you solve it for us? No. Prachi is on the street, going and finding problems, going and finding opportunities, and going back to your management or the leadership saying that, hey, I have figured out an opportunity which can make great business sense for you, and I can solve it as well. Are you ready to back me with this? So we are problem finders, we are opportunity finders. And mind you, future is of people who can find those opportunities rather than people who can solve those opportunities. So problem finding. And the third part of it is solving it with continuous experimentation, which means in design, there's nothing known as being first time right. It's all about continuously building hypothesis, testing it out. And this is, in fact, I've learned, this I've picked up from Suhit itself. It's all about continuously pivoting and trying to figure out what will in the end ultimately work. So that is what design thinking is. Good. So we have an understanding of design thinking. Yes, some people said process. Yes, there is a process or there's a method to the madness. I just refrain myself from calling it a process. I call it an approach because this is a pretty open and a iterative approach that we look at. But yes, there's a method to madness. And The approach that I use or we use in our part of the design world is what we call as explore, ideate, create, evolve. Now there are different names that you will see, but principles remain same. So what you see here is, interestingly, there are 4 stages that we will typically look at. Explore is all about finding problems, taking a human-centered lens and defining them. Ideate is all about finding answers to those problems. Prototyping or create is all about prototyping, testing, and figuring out what is ultimately working for the user. And evolve is all about the entire business model and business case and putting stories around your business or around the designs that you are putting in. I'll not touch upon it in greater detail because we're going to experience all of this live in action right after this. So these are the 4 stages that we're going to experience as well in a small way. So be ready to now get into action and solve a real design problem. Now, why is design thinking so relevant for HR? And I've always been thinking about it, and this is what I always keep telling Amanji and Dipin as well. That design thinking has a super high focus on the human-centeredness part of it. HR, the biggest agenda is human-centeredness. And in fact, today, HR is being challenged with a lot of wicked problems, as what we call in the design world, problems that are complex, problems that are not, to take an example, bringing people back to office in the new hybrid environment. It's become a wicked problem for HR people, right? DEI in itself, that how do we make DEI as a part of the culture of the organization? So many new problems or new areas that HR people have to drive and explore. And for that, HR people definitely needs a new approach rather than the traditional ways of going through the same way that they used to design traditionally. And that is the reason design thinking has become highly relevant for HRs, because HR has now become the experience architect rather than just being a process owner and running the people processes in the organization. From here, as I promised, we're going to get into action and solve a real design problem. So the problem for all of us, before we get into the problem, meet Steve today. All of you meet Steve. Yes. Steve, an admin person working in your organization, loves his job and works sincerely, is autistic and is often found being straightforward / being rude during employee interactions. He's being straightforward, but employees perceive him to be rude, right? That is who Steve is for you. All of you, if you can just take 30 seconds to embrace Steve within your heart and just try and understand who Steve is. Great. If you've already embraced Steve, let's see what our problem is or what our mission is. Our mission today is, how might we design a learning experience for Steve to help him communicate better? Okay. Now, when I'm talking about for Steve, the learning experience is that we have to keep Steve as the focal point and try and see how can we help him communicate better with the employees so that his work becomes simpler and his way to navigate within the organization becomes simpler. All of you now understand what the challenge is? Just give me a yes on the chat if you understand what the challenge is that we're working towards. Good. Super. Let's move forward. So we're going to go through the 4 phases, as I promised: explore, ideate, create, evolve. So the first stage that we're going to go through is explore, and explore is all about empathy. Explore is all about experiencing what the other person is experiencing. And for this one, we will ask some questions as well so that we understand what's your perspective around that particular topic. So my question to you is, empathy makes the latent needs visible. True or false? Let's see. True or false? True. Vivek says true. Ashu says true. Vidhu says true. Pooja says true. True. Nilanjana says true. Good. Asif says true. Everyone saying true. Good. No one false. Okay. Amazing. You guys are smart. Let's see. Great. So the answer is true. Empathy makes latent needs visible. And that's the power of empathy, that it also makes the unsaid or the latent visible. And that's why empathy is at the heart of design. Why is it at the heart of design? Let's just go through one story of this guy known as Doug. I'm sure some of you might have heard it or some of you might not. But I find this story fascinating, and I thought that you should definitely know about it for people who don't know. This story is of Doug. Doug is the designer behind MRI machines at GE Healthcare. GE Healthcare, the market leader in MRI machines across the globe. Doug had this habit. I mean, everything was going great. Doug had this habit of going to hospitals every week just to take feedback from the doctors on the MRI machine. He used to go to doctors every week and ask them, "Hey doc, how is it going?" And mind you, docs, because doctors, we all know how do they mint money out of recommending scans and tests to people. They said, "All going great, Doug. Amazing work." Doug used to go to the management. Management was minting a lot of money. Market leader. Management said, "Great work, Doug." Doug used to pat his own back, saying that, "Great work, Doug." Once Doug was at the hospital. Once Doug was at the hospital doing the same routine weekly visit. He saw a mother, a daughter, and a mother, a father, and a daughter coming for a scan. The daughter had to go through an MRI scan, and he saw the daughter crying profusely, crying badly. This was something different that he observed. He said, "This has never happened to me before, but this is interesting." He went to the mother to explore it further. He went to the mother not with a question of, "Hey, how is it going?" but with the question of, "I see your daughter crying. Why is she crying?" And the daughter gave a tight slap to Doug on his face, not physically, but with the answer that she gave. And the answer was, "Your machine scares the shit out of children. Your machine scares the shit out of children." This shook Doug. This shook Doug. He said, "I created something which was so amazing and I'm so proud of it. But there's certain people in this world who are really, really scared of my machine. I need to do something about it." He went to the GE management and said, "I want to redesign this machine. I want to redesign this machine." And we all are working professionals, right? What did management say? Think about it. Let's see on the chat. What did the management say? They went to the senior leadership and asked me, "I want to redesign this machine." What did the management say? "Yes, Srilata, you have got a great management. Good. Be happy about it." Vivek says, "Why?" "No, we are doing brisk business." Pooja says, "Great, Pooja. You're already qualified for being a senior professional," because that's the answer that the management gave. Don't even touch the machine. We are market leaders. We are minting money. Everything is going great. Why even do anything about it? Right? This is what typically happens. But there was something bothering Doug. He said, "I still want to do it." He went to the D School, which is the design school of Stanford, and he attended a design thinking workshop, just like you guys are doing, and redesigned the machine and brought in certain concepts back from there, certain prototypes back from there. He went to the management again and he said, "This is what I want to create. Please fund it." What did the management say now? What did the management say now? "No, Salil, good. You also qualified. ROI, yes, Ramkrishna, you also qualified to be a leader in the organization now." Management said, "Don't waste our time. We have already told you not to do anything about it. Why are you still working on it?" Doug, with some of his colleagues, worked overtime, self-funded, and created working models out of it. They created a under the sea version. They created a spaceship version. They created a pirate ship version. They created a jungle book version, multiple versions of the machine, right? And just to make you experience, if all of you can just close your eyes right now, all of you just close your eyes. Everyone, just close your eyes. Ramkrishna, you're just entering into the MRI room and just experience what I'm just mentioning. Ramkrishna, you're just entering into the MRI room. In the entire, "Hey Ramkrishna, get ready. The aliens may attack you anytime." You can all open your eyes now. What were you focusing on, Ramkrishna? Oh, big surprise. Vivek says, "Ramkrishna, what were you focusing on?" Prachi, what were you focusing on? If you can just answer on the chat. Meenakshi, what were you focusing on? Shalini, what were you focusing on? On the chat, guys. Sukanya, what were you focusing on? The theme, the audio, scared of darkness, dreadful MRI machine. What is going to happen? Asif is saying that. Aliens attacking. Amazing, guys. We are all adults. What I've just done is in this 30 seconds, I've just changed your experience of an MRI machine. Most of you were thinking about the aliens, about space, about what's going to happen, and things changed. Just to show you what they created is this. The same MRI machine, and mind you, they've not touched the technology. They've just redesigned the experience around it and gave stories to the entire design. So, empathy brings in a shift in perspective from designing product, services, processes to designing human experiences. Remember that at the heart of it. And if you go through Doug's story again, it was not the question of, hey, doc, how is it going that got him this insight or this answer. It was the approach of observing that child crying and being bothered about it, that there's something wrong here, there's something that is not working well here, is being bothered about that. And then going and having a deeper conversation with the stakeholders or with the users, that why is this happening, is what brought the real insight, is what brought what exactly is the problem or what can we do about it. Now, the approach that we take towards empathy is OEI, observe, engage, immerse. What do I now want you to do is, remember Steve, or you've forgotten Steve already by now? You remember Steve, right? So good. Let's go ahead. What are his needs? Let's try and see. You all have embraced Steve already. Let's try and see what, according to you, are Steve's needs from the context of the problem that I just mentioned about designing a learning experience for Steve to help him communicate better. What are his needs? On the chat, if you can tell me. Needs better communication skills. Good. To be able to communicate effectively, positive attitude, to learn assertive communication, drive mind of patient through surrounding ambience. Steve doesn't want to be perceived as rude just because he's of his condition. Build empathy. Empathy, he needs someone to understand his challenges. The way he communicates needs assertive and not rude. Empathy, employee sensitization. Good. So Supriya, you brought in another perspective, which is not only from Steve's standpoint, but there might be some sensitization required for the others. Good, well-paced communication, people to understand him, understands autism challenges. Amazing, guys. Good. So I think happy to see the kind of variety of thoughts that you brought in from when you started empathizing or understanding Steve from his perspective rather than from your own learning team perspective or from your own HR standpoint. We've tried to at least in a small way, we've tried to step into Steve's life and try to understand that. Good. Now, from here, we're going to transition to the phase 2, which is, or the stage 2, which is ideate, which is about how do you look at finding answers. Okay, that is the second stage that we are going to get into. And the question for you guys here is, from the stage of ideate, what according to you is creativity? Let's see. Let's see what brilliant answers you give. Manpreet, Vivek, Salil. Fresh way of looking at the same thing. Pooja says that, bringing innovative solution. Okay, great. Yes. Any other thoughts? Outside the box. Yes. Novel solution to any problem, to come up with new, breaking the monotony, innovative ways of handling the problem, make work simple, to touch other people, defining and solving problems, use of imagination. That's what Shelja is saying. Step change. Okay. Anyone else with any other thoughts? At times, rework and relook, seeing a different perspective, being proactive is what I kind of understand from Srilata. Okay. Any other thoughts? Yes. Define priorities, way to express different from the existing. Good. So I think, I mean, there's a entire conversation that we can have on this. However, creativity, yes, is your innate ability to create. That's what creativity is. And it can be innovative, it can be inventive, it can be improvement, anything, but it's your innate ability to create and start that creation process or start that entire creation journey to create anything. Okay, so good. Happy to see the perspectives that all of you have shared. Amazing, guys. For this one, we're going to talk about a story of a Big Four organization. The problem in this Big Four, I'm sure all of you understand what Big Fours are. These are Big Four audit firms that are there operating across the world. This is a project where the problem that the organization was facing was that being a large organization, and I'm sure a lot of you might be able to relate to it, being a large organization, the problem was that customers used to come to them with a business problem, with a business challenge. Now, suppose let's take an example for say Meenakshi. Meenakshi, you are a customer or you are a client, a business, a large business, and you're they say the MD of the organization. You are facing a business challenge and you approach an organization. What are you bothered about? What, as a business owner or as the MD of that organization, what are you bothered about? Anyone else can also answer. I'll just ask Meenakshi, but anyone else can also answer. If you have taken the problem to a consultant or to an organization to seek help, what are you bothered about? Investment, its functionality, cost effectiveness, desired outcome. Amazing, Rajesh. Amazing, amazing. So you are at the forefront, you are bothered about that I need my problem solved. It's as simple as that. Nothing else. I want my business to run better and I need my problem solved. That is the primary thing that you would look at. Now, within this organization, the challenge was because it being a large organization, they were operating in silos. And when customers' problem used to come in, so every team used to reach out to the customer, just kind of selling their own part of the solution. No one was thinking about that. Can we weave this together into one solution, or can we go to the customer, understand from them, from their angle, what exactly is the problem and what exactly are they facing? And then internally, we figure out a way to kind of combine everything and go back to the customer as one solution and getting it solved, actually, right? So this was the problem that this organization was facing. When we went deeper into this entire problem or the challenge that this organization was facing, one of the things or two things that we figured out. One, it was the mindset of the leaders there. The leaders were primarily focused on our KPIs, my KPIs, my goals, and my targets that I need to achieve. And there was an emotional insecurity within the leaders, saying that if suppose I collaborate or if I kind of work with someone else, my part of the business will go out, right? So that was one. And second, fundamentally from a design angle, one more gap that we figured out was the entire performance management of the organization was driving this entire insecurity and this siloed environment. Now, so two kind of goals that we kind of fixed up for ourselves. One was how do we drive a growth mindset within the leaders, and the second part of it that we worked upon was how do we redesign the performance management. I mean, there were a lot of insights that we also got when we went deeper into it, but how do we redesign the performance management and make it more agile and make it more driven towards collaboration. Now, so I'll just share one of the solutions that we proposed. Now, this solution, or that we got implemented finally. So the solution that, in fact, last time Unmesh was also talking about, this solution is open performance development. So here what we said was that from a performance management standpoint, one, there is nothing known as goal freezing. We're saying there's goal setting, but there's nothing known as goal freezing. Anytime across the entire year, you can change your goals based on the kind of project that you are working upon. Second, any person can also work in some other leaders project as well. So that openness that we brought in, and you can feed it into your performance management system. Third, in fact, we ran a lot of workshops and a lot of behavioral nudges that we gave to the leaders around driving collaboration. One change that we saw in this entire thing happening, yes, the performance management definitely changed, but also one change that we saw next year, the year that we implemented this there, next year, the deal size or the number of high ticket deals that were signed by the organization went up by at least 3 times that they were signing before. So this story, I wanted to bring this story to you guys just to understand that how thinking different and how thinking about thinking in radical ways. I mean, no one in the organization could have ever thought that there's nothing known as goal setting and goal freezing. Everyone in the organization was so used to saying that we will have to set our goals at the start of the year and freeze them, and then half yearly we will have conversations, and at the end of the year we will have our final conversations and ratings coming out. Here we said there's nothing known as goal freezing or goal submitting, and it was a complete different way of looking at the entire performance management and the mindset of leaders in the organization. The message for all of you here in this one, sometimes the ideas that look radical to you today have the potential to become the best experiments of tomorrow. This idea at the start, when we were thinking about it, looked radical to such a large organization, but today it is one of the best experiments that they've made, and the entire approach of open performance development is still running in the organization successfully. Good. Now let's move forward. The tool that we're going to learn from a ideation angle this time. Last time we looked at what if. This time I'm looking at a different tool for with this group. Is where else. Now, where else is a tool I also call this as the tool of inspiration. Okay. Now let me tell you what this tool is all about. A lot of times, the problems that we are trying to solve in our organization or in our space have already been solved by some other organization, by some other industry, in some other analogous environment. Now, what where else does is it helps you to take inspiration from there and try and bring those practices into your own environment, or adapt those practices into your own environment and look at the new way of doing it. So let's take an example and try and experiment with this tool. Suppose in the what is part of it, what we will do is, and we'll work together on this. Suppose we are working towards redesigning the onboarding experience. Suppose we are doing that. Okay. Now, a question to all of you. Where else in the world do we get onboarded? Let's try and make a list of it. Where else do you get onboarded? Let's see on the chat. Flights. Good one, Nitin. Flight. Ashu also says that. Good morning. Okay, Ruby says good morning right now. Yes. Where else do we get onboarded? Tell me. In college, good one, Mehak. Good one, Michael. Yes. Anyone else with any other thoughts? Cruise, in company, organization, after getting married. Good one, Pooja. Yes, in the new house. Amazing. That was a different one, Pooja. Ship, in the organization. Yes. Okay. Now we mentioned some of them. Let's choose any one of them. Okay, and let's consider that to be a good experience of onboarding. Suppose, just take one more thing. We get onboarded to this world also when we are born. Okay. Now let's take, say, after getting married, you get onboarded to a new house. I loved Pooja's example, so I'm just picking that up right now. So after getting married, you get onboarded to a new house, or to the new to the new life that you kind of get into. Now, the next thing that I would want to understand is, what is, assuming that it's been a great experience, what is so great about getting onboarded? What is so great about that experience of getting onboarded into a new house after marriage? Let's make a list of that. Any thoughts? New people, induction. Yes, Ramkishore, there's an induction. There's family support. So there's a support system that you have. Happy Wala Day, welcoming people, new routine, new environment, family traditions, knowing about the entire culture, new experience, excitement, adopting to work culture, new food. That's Pooja says good, different food. Fear, yes, in fact, that's also a part of it. New rules, new people around. Good one. Now, just think about it. So we have just embraced a few things from a very different environment, which is an analogous environment of a person getting onboarded when the person gets married, getting onboarded to a new house. Now, and you mentioned certain good practices or certain things that people do to make that experience a good experience. Now, the third part of it, how else? Let's try and bring some of those practices into our environment. So one of the things that we said is new stuff, new food, excitement, and all those things. So how do we bring that into our onboarding experience when we onboard someone to our organization? Maybe an idea around that can be things to look out for in our organization. Send messages to that person and try and see that, make the excitement into the person that when you get onboarded to this organization, things to explore in the office, things to explore in the organization, and excite them. Similarly, you can look at all the other aspects that you just mentioned and embrace them into your environment and try and make the overall experience better. Okay. So this is the kind of power of where else, which is about learning, or I also call it as the tool of inspiration. You learn from analogous environments and try and bring those practices into your environment. A lot of times it disrupts the way that you're thinking right now. Good. So let's progress. I'm sure all of you remember Steve. Let's go back to Steve. Now, you had thought of certain problems or certain challenges, or when you empathize with Steve, you had thought of certain needs that Steve and people around him have. Now, let's think about what solutions can you propose for Steve? Yes, what solutions can you propose for Steve from a learning experience standpoint? Ideas. Let's see how wild can you think of. Counseling, good one. Training, assign mentor, good. What else? Self-onboarding, self-service onboarding, have more visual boards. Okay, good, Surya. Psychometric test, visual boards, sign symbols use. Okay, think more, guys, think more. Learning buddy, emotional intelligence training, empathy, SOPs. Shilata says that. Assign a buddy, slow process teachings. Good, Gaurav. So you introduce an element or a feature into the learning sensitization for Steve and people around him. Flow charts, picture stories, role plays. Good one, Vidu. That's a good idea of having road shows or role plays being done to explain things. Amazing, guys. Good. So now, if you see, understood Steve, and we've now thought of certain solutions that we can propose to Steve. So we have certain answers as well. From here, let's go to the constructive feedback. Good one, Shilata. Let's go to the third stage, which is about, from here, you get into the stage of create, which is about bringing your ideas to life, right? Now, my question to you is, let's see, I love this question a lot. Prototypes are necessarily working models of your design. True, false? Vivek says true. Let's see what others say. True. Only one answer. False. Pooja says false. Sorry, false. Again, Michael was true, false. False, Michael says. What about others? Surya says true. It is not necessary. False, false. True. Good. So traditionally, so you'll hear a lot of terms, prototypes. So people will say POCs, proof of concept, working models, MVPs, minimum viable products. No, all of them are evolved form of prototypes. For people who said false, great, you're right. Prototypes are anything that can give a near to real feel to the user. It can be as basic as a simple sketch also. It's not necessary to be a working model itself. So the answer is false. Now, with this, we will go to the third story that we're going to cover today. This story is of a global bank, the GSC or the Shared Services Center of a global bank. And the bank had, and the problem that the bank was facing was the bank had already launched a DEI initiative some time back. And now they were wanting to strengthen it and become market leaders into the DEI front, not only with respect to external visibility, but also with respect to internal practices and the way DEI is being practiced by the user. Now, when we did empathy conversations and we tried to figure out that what are the, after launching and after the first initiative and the initial parts of the DEI initiative getting launched, what were the challenges that the organization was facing now today? We looked at the challenges in these 4 areas. So the first broad theme that we constructed around them was DEI in the organization had become an event-based stuff, which means Pride Month or it was just an event-based thing. What the organization now wanted to do was make it as a new business normal rather than it becoming an event-based thing. That is the shift that we wanted to make in this initiative that we were trying to work with the organization. Now, what we defined it as, or the way that we defined when we drill down deeper, where we found the challenges, the first we said that it is about shifting the mindset and shifting the perceptions of people about DEI, the leaders about DEI and DEI initiatives. Second, changing assumptions and biases of people and bringing DEI into day-to-day conversations. Third, I think one more important thing that we figured out was a lot of these initiatives that they were driving, there was no mechanism of tracking effectiveness of those initiatives. And there were no metrics that the organization defined around it. So tracking the diversity and inclusion metrics and looking at an entire dashboard. And the fourth one was around creating brand visibility internally and externally around the DEI initiatives. Now, so these were certain insights that we kind of figured out, and this became our design principles when we were working on this entire problem there. What we ended up doing, and I'll tell you the message that I also want to give to you, but what we ended up doing was these things. So the first thing that we did was we created an entire online community dedicated for DEI in the organization to have day-to-day conversations. And this entire community, or the online platform that we looked at, was dedicated to have conversations, and there were a lot of conversations that started on various topics within DEI within the organization, and we were tracking metrics. The second part that we looked at was learning modules and behavioral nudges that we planted all across the organization to bring in, to kind of to kind of change biases of people, and also kind of nudging mindsets. And the third part that we looked at was defining metrics and designing a dashboard for the senior leadership to understand, or the business to understand, how are these DEI initiatives shaping up, and what is the kind of effectiveness that they're delivering with the kind of investments that are being taken up. But the message, while this solution that we implemented, the message that I want to leave with you guys here is, in design, or when you're designing something, everything is going to go through a cycle of iteration and change. That means you, at every stage, even if you've launched the solution, even if you have already solutions already getting implemented, still keep looking out for the new insights, because with every problem or with every solution getting implemented, there'll be new problems that might come in. So you will be in this constant journey of prototyping, testing, and implementing, then again prototyping, testing, implementing. There's a constant journey of pivoting that you will go through. So just don't stop at yes, our solution has, we have designed something, we have launched it, and it's done. No, you still have to continuously keep pivoting it, because there are changes that are happening both in the external and internal environment. So that is the power of continuous prototyping and iterating your solutions. Now, there are various ways to prototype. If you just see, I'm just showing you a few. There's paper model, clay model. So according to me, as I said, prototyping is nothing but anything that can give a near to real feel to the user for them to interact and give feedback. So there's some ways that we prototype things. Just one question that I'll ask you. On the top right here, the top extreme right, what do you see as this? What prototype is this? What is this prototype here? A gun? Vivek says this. A gun? No. So this is a prototype of an internal oral camera, internal oral scanner. The first prototype of internal oral scanner was built with a glue stick, with a box, and with a cloth clip. Right? This is how rough your prototypes can be to start with. The reason behind, in design, we propagate an entire philosophy of not being first time right, but try fast to fail fast to succeed sooner. And yes, Vivek, because that internal camera also kind of resembles a gun. So try fast to fail fast to succeed sooner. That is the only way to find the right answer sometimes. So, and if you have to try fast, you will have, and try and fail fast, you will have to try small, cheap, and in lesser effort and time. And this is how it can get, this is how rough it can get for you. There are many ways that I've just listed down on the left-hand side, and there can be many more ways. Just keep the principle in mind. Near to real, rough and fast is what you have to work towards when you are building a prototype. Now, what we're going to do now is, for the ideas that you selected or that you kind of worked around for Steve, if you can just give me, how would you prototype that idea? Just give me that on the chat. Whatever idea you had selected or you had kind of proposed for Steve in the previous section, how would you prototype that? If you can just give me that on the chat. Just think about it. I've just given you various ways. How would you prototype it? And just remember, your first prototype might not be a best one, but you still have to prototype and take it to the business leaders or the users. Avinash, I think I lost connection. If you can just make me the host again, co-host again.
Sure.
Okay, sorry guys, I think for the technical glitch, we will just quickly, we were on the prototypes part of it, and let me just see if you have shared, have a mentor, counselor, autism expert. Good, Pooja, that's a solution, but how would you prototype it? Just think about that, show feedback from people and give good examples of by video, slow learning sessions, make reads. Um, think about how are you going to prototype it rough and fast so that you can test it. Amazing, good mocks that you can do. Good one, Vivek. So great. So remember, whether you are at an early stage design or you've already implemented, do keep yourself into the cycle of prototyping, testing, and evolving your solutions more and more, because that is the only way that you will kind of you will be able to find what is ultimately working and making it better every day. With this, we come to the last segment, and I'll just take 2 more minutes before I hand it over to Suhit. The last segment of it, which is around evolve, and I'm just going to cover one part of it, which is around storytelling, is what we will do in the power of stories. So the question that I have for all of you: storytelling makes great ideas meaningful to the audience. True, false? True, 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 true. Good, amazing, guys. Amazing, amazing, super. So right, so the answer is true. So good, I am happy with the kind of answers that you have given. For this one, I will tell you a story, and I'm sure all of you know this organization. I'll tell you a story of this organization. This organization was facing a challenge of the people who were working for this organization. So suddenly, so they were seeing that yes, there is there's work going on, everything is going great, clients are happy, and everything is fine. But in their pulse surveys and a lot of employee satisfaction surveys, what they figured out as an insight, that the people working for the organization here do not align their purpose, or they are not proud of working with the organization, or they're not aligning with the purpose of the organization somewhere. And because of which there's a lot of energy drop that is happening in the overall workforce and the people of this organization. Second, they also figured out was that there's a lot of new young people joining the organization, and the generation that they are now dealing with is a lot purpose driven. Now, what this organization, well, I'll play the video for you, but what this organization did was they launched this entire, so they first said that before even doing anything around this, we would want to first help people understand the purpose of this organization and make them feel proud about working with this organization. For this, what they did, so I'm just showing you a live artifact, what this organization did, just 1 second. What this organization did was launch this entire story campaign. And this was the first story that they shared with the people. Just tell me if you can hear the sound as well.
What do we do at KPMG? We shape history. When President Roosevelt signed World War II's historic Lend-Lease agreement, he called on KPMG. France and most of Europe had fallen, and Britain was next. Winston Churchill turned to President Roosevelt, who signed the Lend-Lease Act, and Pete Marwick's senior partner William M. Black was tapped to execute this arsenal of democracy, which provided $60 billion in life-saving aid and arms to the Allies. What do we do at KPMG? We reunite families. When the Iranian hostage crisis left over 50 U.S. citizens in captivity for 444 days, the U.S. turned to KPMG Pete Marwick at a critical stage in the final resolution. $24 billion in conflicting claims had to be sorted, to the satisfaction of bitterly divided sides. KPMG assured that satisfaction, and the hostages came home. What do we do at KPMG? We champion democracy. When a historic election needed the trust of a nation, KPMG South Africa was there. With unclear results, the election threatened civil unrest. The KPMG team worked round the clock to certify the election, ensuring fairness and accuracy. Nelson Mandela became president, and South Africa became a young democracy. We're all here for a purpose. inspire confidence, empower change.
So this entire story was launched, and then what the firm did was they launched an entire campaign that every employee, they create boards in the organization, and you can share your purpose story and how are you contributing to the purpose of the larger purpose of the organization and the world around. This became a world record, and today still stands to be a world record amongst the highest stories shared ever in an organization, right? So power of storytelling, wherein if you tell stories, you are making, now this is a design, the organization is also designed. You make designs meaningful to the audience or to the people who those designs are being catered to. So remember, get into the craft of storytelling. How do you craft stories? A framework that we use, I'll just touch upon it very, very briefly. Typically, when we look at crafting a story, we always look at defining whose life is going to change with this design that we are trying to craft, and they become the hero of our story. What is the challenge that the hero is facing today, or the entire user base is facing today? How can our solution help the user? And finally, what is the new life our user is going to have? I would have loved to touch it in detail, but yes, the paucity of time, I'm just covering this much. Quickly, let's go to Steve and let's complete the cycle. For the solution that you just proposed, if you can just craft a one-line story and put it on the chat. And by the time by the time you put your one-line stories, I will just pass it on to Suhit. I'm just completing my part of the session. Just to recap of what we did, we looked at explore, ideate, create, evolve as the 4 stages. Explore is all about human experiences. Ideate is all about trusting radical ideas and making them your best experiments. Create is all about build, fail, iterate, repeat the entire cycle of prototyping, testing, and learning. And finally, evolve is all about crafting user-relevant stories and making your designs meaningful to the users who are going to use it. And if not anything else, this entire session, that from my side, if you just pick one thing from this entire session and you've already begun your journey of design, I firmly believe in this, and I'm leaving it with you guys also today. Remember one thing, guys. Humans remember businesses that remember humans. So if you remember the human when you are designing stuff in your business, they will also remember you when you need them the most. So if not anything else, just take this one principle back. With this, handing over to Suhit. Suhit, I've just picked this line from you, and I'm just introducing this line before I hand it over to you. Suhit has given me this line. He told me once that, and I mean, he's a great inspiration to me. Life is nothing but a continuous journey of forming and testing hypotheses. So over to you, Suhit, with this. Happy to hear your experiences.
That's such a nice way to get me started, Ajay, and fantastic presentation from your end. This has been a fantastic way to see what you've expressed in terms of design thinking. Do you want to stop sharing your screen, Ajay, and I can start sharing mine? So that's been fantastic. I like the way you engaged everyone. Everybody's on board. So what I'll do now is I'll try to kind of share my experiences of actually doing this around the world, and what are the different areas where you can actually use design. I'm hoping you can see this. I'm calling this design everything everywhere because I see design in everything I do. Everything I see and everywhere I go. So once you have the design mindset, it just stays with you. So there's something about a methodology and process, which I'll talk, but something about the mindset itself. So I know Aman sir has very nicely introduced me, but I thought I'll give you a bit of a background. So this is one of the good design awards we have won, which is a globally relevant design awards from Australia. I've done work in a range of things, including in Silicon Valley, T-Hub in Hyderabad, and a lot of stuff in Bangalore with Boeing. Worked with governments, not-for-profits, startups. And what I've seen is that design is actually everywhere, and you can use design in a range of things. So what I'm trying to share with you today is to kind of give you an experience of the different areas you can use design on, give some inspiration, and see if you have time for some questions. A big philosophy for me is what I've been calling is humanomics. How do you combine the idea of thinking about value for humans, and how do you kind of bring the value of business and both of them together? The social side can learn from business, the business can learn from social. And I think there's really value in trying to kind of bring both of them together and trying to create better value for the world. So Ajay showed his design process. I think there's like 100 ways you can cut it. I tried to just create mine because I thought, okay, I'll just for fun, let me see what I can do. So these are my 4 steps. So I talk about perceive. So how do you kind of build empathy, as Ajay pointed out, but also sense making and insight. I think insight is really key at perception. Like what is the insight? What is the starting point of change that you want to do? Portfolio is about, yes, absolutely ideation, but it's also creating a range of ideas. Some are extreme, some are not. So you actually sit with that. And perform is prototyping, but it also could be a model making. It could be exploration. It could be trying something that you've not tried before. And finally, you need to make a choice about pause or promote. If it's not working, to the previous point about hypothesis, if it's not working, which is that the original insight and idea was wrong, you have to kind of go back and try. And if it's working, then you need to promote. You need to figure out how do you scale it. So you need to do both. And this is kind of a iterative process, which is why the arrows go both ways. In some sense, you can start anywhere, in my view. There's no right way to start. You can pretty much start at perceive or ideate or even perform. So that's one way to look at the model. There's lots of different ways. Let me go into, because it's a HR thing, even though I'm trying to give other examples, I thought I'd start with this. How do you use in your own work, right? Have you seen examples of using design in how you can make the life of employees better? Has anybody's got any examples that they can share?
Suhit, if you could elaborate the question a little bit more, what exactly are you asking?
I'm saying like internal to your organization, not just HR, have you seen how design has been used?
Okay.
All right, I'll go on and you can start thinking. One of the best examples I've seen is when I went to the Airbnb offices in San Francisco. Of course, Airbnb is all about homes. So each office space was a home, a real home that was on Airbnb. They went to all parts of the world and recreated that exact home in their offices. It was a surreal experience walking through the office, because you would see your homes from India to Africa to Australia to Europe to America, and that's how they work. So every day they're reminded about their customers, and they're reminded about what it means to serve their customers, just because their customers are actually where they're working in. So I thought that was a very, very good example of how you would design your work itself, and how do you kind of bring the outside world, which is your customers, inside. So that's one example. I think TCS also has done some work around this. TCS has a design thinking center of excellence. They use it a lot for, of course, for their business world, which as they should, but they've also been using it to kind of create a HR model. I don't have the insight about whether it's working or not. I'm sure one of you guys have a better insight, but I think it's a good way to think about how do you kind of use those things, not just for the clients, but also internally. A second big piece is, of course, creating technology. Steve Jobs said that we start from the people and work backwards. And I think that's a very powerful statement to think about, that the best technology people don't start with just the product. They start with what they want to achieve and where they are. Two examples I love is the Tesla Model 3, which is a great example of how do you redesign an entire car, right? There's only 2 buttons, there's one screen, and that's about it inside. How do you kind of reimagine what a car should be from the ground up? And on the right is what is a Nest thermostat, which is basically a one single piece which actually understands your behavior, then sets times in terms of your managing your air conditioner and heating all at the same time. It's a very beautiful design in terms of aesthetics. It's very functional in terms of the way it provides information, and it actually works really well. From an India angle, I thought these 2 are really good examples. Of course, everybody knows Paytm, but the whole revolution in UPI and a lot of good design has gone into how people are designing, testing, providing information. But going back a bit backwards, I think Nano is a good example of imagining a new car from the ground up and building. I was always curious why Nano failed. I wonder what people have any views on that. Why did Nano fail? And thanks for the guys who put in the information before in terms of what you have seen. Nano's positioning went wrong. Design itself, okay, so you didn't like the car. Marketing, engine noise. There's a whole bunch of things, right? Clearance, marketing. I actually think Nano was a great idea, but yes, it did fail because I think the design was not just the lack of the car, it was lack of understanding of what consumers in India want, right? When Nano launched, the car was a prestige thing, right? You want to drive in a car that shows that you've actually gone up in life. You don't want to be driving in a car which everybody knows is the cheapest car in the world. What does it even tell you about you as your perception of who you are if you're driving the cheapest car in the world? So people bought second-hand Maruti, right? Because that was still at least a Maruti. Like this was like the cheapest car in the world. And I think this is kind of the challenge of like actually creating the cheapest car in the world and selling it as the cheapest car in the world. So this was a good insight from Tata's about the need for a cheap car, but lack of understanding of marketing in terms of how you actually position the car. So yeah, you guys have really picked up that. And I think that's the key. It's like always thinking about those layers. And as you can see, even the best and the biggest companies miss this. Let's move to another part of this, and this is strategy. I'm a big fan of strategy and a lot of strategy methods, whether if you guys have done MBA or looked online or seen strategy, you know, we use the Porter's framework or this, it's all about competition. It's all about understanding industry dynamics. It's about pricing. But what most strategy misses is the idea of human-centeredness. And I think this is where I think design plays an extremely big role. So I call myself a strategy designer, and the idea has always been to kind of combine design and strategy. And they have worked extremely well in lots of cases. A couple of examples I want to share is Lego Mindstorms. And if anybody has actually seen this or played with this. So Lego, as you know, is basically create the building blocks of how you can make a whole bunch of things. But they went and tried to understand their customers and where the world is changing. And they realized that the Lego can do what they're doing, but to create new products and a new way of approaching their customers, they need to make their products relevant for the future. So understanding where the world is going and understanding what the customers' insights are, including parents, and then creating this new product, which is like your traditional Lego, which you can kind of bring a bunch of things together, but actually has robotics and computer coding built in. So you can actually teach kids to do this, but at the same time have fun. So this is really moving the product development space to a new way, but also actually reimagining what it means from the customer point of view. So strategy at its core has to start with the customer, and also then go to the industry. And I think it's a very powerful way to kind of bring these two things together. Another example is Westpac. Westpac is a 200-year-old bank in Australia. So Westpac called us to do some work many years back. And what we did was we mapped the journey in the life of a child from 0 to 18, right? He said, what happens in a life of a child? Where does the parents show up, friends show up, schools show up, other things show up? And then we try to imagine what is the role of money in their life. And then we try to imagine what should be Westpac's strategy for kids and what should be the products. So if you can layer that down and think about it, right? It's really about starting with and saying, what is the life of a customer and where are the most important transition points in their life? And then you work through that process to create products. And this is not normal. Most people, when they do strategy, this is not how they do it. So there's a real huge value in kind of going deep and understanding human behavior and then building your strategy around it. And the last kind of piece of space that I want to share with you is new product development. So before I do that, can people share what are their most like the products that they love? This is like one product I really love. And maybe not use just the iPhone and the smartphones. Let's kind of go beyond that. Post-its, yes. As people write, I don't know if you know the story of Post-its, but Post-its was actually it came from an accident, that the gum that they created didn't actually stick. So rather than kind of wasting that new technology, they create Post-its. Glue stick, laptop, yep. And of course, in laptops, there's a bunch of range of laptops, and some are better than others, of course. Yep, Dyson, yep, love it. Smartphones, eye rinser, which has a nozzle and a small cup. Very interesting. That's pretty cool example, Pooja. Jetboat, Alexa, yep, Alexa is great just because of the way they focused on voice as the interface. Nescafe, Alexa again, alarm, radio, timer. Yes, there's a range of products, right? And when you use those products, you get a sense of like, this solves a critical problem for me, and this works really well for me. What sometimes we miss is like, how did that product even come about? So I want to share two examples on that. Somebody mentioned Dyson, and Dyson, of course, is one of the great design companies in the world. Can anybody tell me how many prototypes, as Ajay was sharing before, that we all have to prototype for design? How many prototypes did Dyson go through in their first ever vacuum cleaner that they created? So just pick a number. 900 plus, more than 1500. Interesting. 500. 10. That's quite a range, right? Frankly, one would not be a prototype. One would be the thing that you create, right? Millions would be a bit over the top in my view. 5K, 10K. So Dyson did, that's a great conversation, right? It's like one for me is just creating the product, right? 10,000 to millions is like really going out there to create like a hell number of prototypes. Dyson did create, I think it worked around 4,000 prototypes at the start. But that was their first ever vacuum cleaner. I wouldn't say they would do the same for the next products. But what it tells us is that prototyping is such a key part of all this product making, whether it's a car or whether it's a vacuum cleaner. I think the number of prototypes is basically the number of learnings that you've had, which means your product is better. I think humans have a tendency to think that we are smart and that one is the answer. We know what to do. The most humble, smartest people know that they don't actually know the answer on day one. And that's why you prototype. You prototype to learn. So that's a very key part of this, is that, a key part of new product development is actually prototyping and learning. So if you assume that your first answer is the right answer, then I think there's a larger problem we have, which is the mindset issue. The second one I love is the Gillette Guard. I'm sure you have seen it. Maybe most of you have not used it. It's definitely targeted at rural India, not at urban India. But if you have seen or if you have used it, I'd love to hear on the chat what you think of the product. So that's a good example of how you do it. So Gillette's design team is actually in New York. And Gillette wanted to make a product for India. They started making, of course, the Mac 3s and all that, and didn't really work. And so somebody asked them that we need to kind of create a new product for India. So they actually went and met Indians in US and talked to them about what would they like. And of course, that's a pretty bad way of doing design, because Indians in US are not the Indians in India. So it's a very bad way of doing it. So the Indian team from Gillette actually rejected that. And they went deep into this. And then they said, we need to do something different. So they went to rural India and towns of India and spent a lot of time watching people. One of the biggest insights they've had which you don't get unless you watch people doing something, is that as we would know that normally, but it's not obvious to people who create products, right? There's no running water in rural India, at least at that point of time. So if you don't have running water, then the way the traditional Gillette products have been created is with running water to clean every part of the blade. The second thing is that hot water is also hard to get. And third thing is that people really would not spend a lot of money to kind of constantly get the best Mac 3s, the Mac 4s, the Mac 5s. So all of this combined to create the Gillette Guard, which was basically that you have very less water, you don't have running water, and you don't want to nick your face when you're cleaning it, when you're shaving it. At the same time, you want that to go for a long time. So all of these insights came from actually the perception of going into rural India and coming out of it, and then actually prototyping, creating, working on a product layer, creating the right price point, and then launching it. And of course, it's been a huge success. But the creation of the product, I think is amazing in my view in terms of the time they took and the design process they went through. So every time you see a product, I think it's really valuable to think, how did that actually happen? What was the design process? What actually made it work for them? And how did they go about doing it? So those are a few examples. I'm happy to stop here, but love to take any questions that you have or discuss any of these things.
Thanks, Suhit. Any questions for Suhit or for me? Happy to take those. You can just type it on the chat or you can unmute yourself and talk. If no, then I'll hand it over to Dipin to kind of take it ahead. So if you can just unshare your screen, I think. And then,
oh yeah, sure, of course.
Thanks, Ajay and Suvit. That was absolutely stunning session. A question that I had in mind was, you said, prototyping, you had to keep iterating and fail fast and keep learning. How would one know that this is a prototype and you're not jumping to a solution? And do you have to sort of hold yourself back that you don't actually solve, or what is that's a little fuzzy for me.
Okay, I'll take that first, and so you can just add in if as in when. So I think if I understood the question right, there was someone who asked me this at some point in time, that when in the prototyping process do we understand that we are successful? And this is good to launch solution.
Yeah.
I mean, was that your question, if I understood right?
Yes, partly, yeah. And yeah, I think that is what I'm trying to know. And do you hold yourself back? Okay, no, I'm in the prototyping phase right now, and I have to think of it as a rough sketch and not a final solution. So do I have to have certain mindsets or a different way of thinking so that I continue in that prototyping stage and not jump into solutioning mode?
Okay. So I think two things. Number one, I'll give the same answer that I gave to that person. When do you know that you're successful? Never. Okay. So reason behind the day you within yourself you start believing that you're successful, the same day you will start your downfall. So you have to be in this continuous journey, whether your product has been launched and it is already working. You still have to keep looking out for insights. You still have to keep looking out for human problems or the new issues that is creating, or maybe new aspirations that have come in, and still keep yourself in the prototyping journey. Okay. Second, it all depends how rough, if your question is whether we have to go rough or how, it all depends on the stage that you are in. If you're at a very early stage and you're designing a product, okay, or maybe you're designing a process also, at a very early stage, you're doing it for the first time, then you might have to go very, very rough. But if you have already launched the product, then I think you can continuously keep experimenting and pivoting. The product that is live, it's already live. You can just keep building onto it, or you can kind of refine it as and when it's happening. So if you have something to add on, you can just.
Yeah, sure. Look, Pooja, that was a great question. I think really shows that you understand the challenge of design. That's what I would love to say there. Look, prototyping, as Ajay said, I'll stick to the first part, like before the product goes out there, because I think that's where prototyping plays the majority of the role. And there's definitely a role afterwards to continue to iterate and refine. But if I stick to the first part, I think the first part of prototyping is learning. So the question is, what are you trying to learn? Like, you need to have a question before you prototype. Because the prototyping is not an idea of just making stuff up, right? It's like, you need to know, I need to learn this X. I have an idea, I have an insight. Now I'm trying to do something to see if that insight is right. If you remember that 4 stages I talked about: perceive, portfolio, perform, and pause or promote. I have an insight. I have a bunch of ideas in my portfolio. I'm trying something to learn. Doing that prototyping helps me learn, right? It could that it confirms your idea. It could be that it confirms that your idea was wrong. Either way, you've learned something. Number one. The second thing is, your prototyping can have different intensity. You weigh everything from a paper prototype all the way to a real product. So your prototyping could be about learning the design and the shape. It could be about actually, how do I manufacture this and see it can be manufactured or not. That is also a prototype. So it depends on what your learning steps and what you're trying to achieve. So that's the first thing I would keep in mind. And then there's a range of techniques, techniques are the least of the problems. It's about what you're trying to figure out. And then when your product feels fully ready, you launch. But as rightly Ajay said, you continue to iterate and learn again. So that's possibly, potentially helps you to think a bit more on that.
Thank you.
Chat is this? Okay, I think so. If there are no further questions, then handing it over to Prachi. Prachi to just. Okay, other 2 questions have come in from SM. Thanks for the session. Good use of time. How can AI/generative AI help to be a better design thinker? Will AI become a better design thinker than human and come up with human-centered designs? Okay, I have my point of view on this, but I will first open it up for Suhit to answer, and then I will share if I need to.
I don't know if there's any right answers, but look, I think I'm actually utilizing this AI right now in my design process and really exploring where does AI show up. One of the big things that I see generative AI show up is actually insight process. When you're having a huge number of conversations, how do you capture all of that in AI? How do you summarize? How do you find trends within the insights that you have found? So that's the space that I'm definitely using AI. The second question, which is interesting, is how does AI become a better design thinker? I think AI has so many capabilities, so it's not about whether it's a design thinker or not. But AI, what we have to be careful in saying that AI is not a real thing, right? It's not living. So it can't be a design thinker. It can be anything that you want it to be. So the key part of AI is, what is it getting trained on? What is the model it's getting trained on? And what are the prompts that you're asking? So AI cannot be a design thinker if you provide no prompts to it. So if you don't know what design is, and if you don't know what you're asking, AI on its own can't design anything. So you have to be very careful when you use this, because AI by itself is not a living thing, right? So it has no purpose. So it's what do you use about doing it? Yes, that's a great question about visual prototypes. Actually, from everything from ideation to visual prototypes, I've used ideation a lot for AI. It's actually extremely fun to use AI for ideation because it can give you some random wild stuff that you may not even think about. If you use something like Midjourney, which is what I love, you can create a whole bunch of visual ideas there, which is like extremely good. I think the next step would be actually connecting AI to 3D printing. And then you can actually 3D print new ideas through AI. I think that's where it'll go. But all of this prototyping, ideation, and insight capture stuff is all there. They're all parts of where AI will play a role. I think the way we need to use AI is like the way using Zoom or Google or my Miro boards or any of those. They're just a nice tool to supercharge what you're doing. And it really comes back to your imagination about where you can fit AI into your process.
Yep. Thanks, Suhit. Just to add on to one perspective, I have used AI I've looked at design and AI in 2 aspects. One aspect is how AI can enable design, which is what we just, it can be in doing secondary research, it can be in doing insights, it can be in doing ideation, it can also be doing in prototypes. It can also be used maybe in testing as well. The other way that I've also looked at it is how can design thinking be used to design AI platforms. That's another way, and in fact, I've written articles on both these things. So just one part of it that I will still share, that can the AI become a better design thinker? I mean, too soon to say that. We don't know how, because one of the things that AI is still grappling with is the entire security angle, right? And the entire, I mean, it's what's planted is what it is telling you, right? So we still don't know that. So I don't think so that's going to happen soon. Because certain there are human skills that I mean, I still feel that an AI cannot replicate as of now till now. In the future, I don't know where does it go. But yes, other parts of it, it's already being used, both sides. AI enabling design thinking and design thinking enabling AI. That's the addition that I just wanted to make. Okay. I think no further questions. So Prachi, over to you.
Thank you, Ajay. So, hello everyone. A very warm good noon. Thanks. Here I am to extend my gratitude on behalf of NHRD and Human Design Thinking and Human Design and Innovation Consulting for you all to participate in this very engaging and interactive session. I hope you all not just took the key information and keynotes from here, but also you also initiated on a journey to think differently, to think in a design thinking manner. And Ajay and Suhit, thanks a lot for sharing how to go about it. I think I'll share just a couple of key takeaways that I had from both Ajay and Suhit. Empathizing all throughout while we are doing the design thinking, problem solving, yes, but also identifying the problem at the very first place is the key to design thinking. Explore, ideate, create, and evolve, and also look at design from the FACE perspective, FACE. Try fast, fail fast, succeed sooner, and get good at storytelling, because that is how you connect with people, and how HR and design have human at the center of it. And that is how we both need to evolve and come together and integrate ourselves. Over to Suhit. I think Suhit gave us many examples for us to learn from. These examples ranged from employee experience to customer experience to marketing, strategy, and some work that has been done with really big shot companies out there, and how they have embedded the design thinking into their processes and strategies. This was an eye-opener session in terms of how at an individual level and at a corporate level, design thinking can do wonders. And I'm sure with this, all of us have initiated on the journey of design thinking, and more of it, I think, is in the design thinking program, which is out there in the kitty, and all of you who are interested can share your feedback in the feedback form, which is also dropped right in the chat box. So yes, apart from it, I would also like to thank the audience who have been really engaging. We have had very interesting examples and interesting questions from the audience, which also left us with a food of thought as to what all things we can think on further. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you, Suhit, once again. Thank you, Ajay, for this session. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your insights into design thinking and helping us to embark this journey.
Thanks, Prachi, and
Thanks, Prachi.
Thanks, Ajay, for including me in this process, and really thanks NHRD to give an opportunity to share this. There's still a lot of people in the session, so I'm really glad that you all heard about this, and I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thanks, Suhit. I think it was lovely interacting with you, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a happy weekend.